I have to factor it out. We have two terrible candidates on the top of the ballot right now. If you look at polarized, views, Republicans think Kamala is terrible, and Democrats think Trump is terrible. And really, as a nation, we should be putting our best. We should have two great candidates fighting it out. That's like the American dream for me.
That's the old American dream.
Yeah, so it's
respectful, polite, and stuff like that.
But I started talking about the prison stuff because I work for CDCR as a business manager. We want to talk about who's got financial responsibility. The incumbent has run the state of California with her party and her leadership. What was happening this last year? Did we have a $73 billion deficit? Yeah. Oh, yeah, we did. Yep. Okay, but you're gonna call people out for their failures trying to make their American dream. Yep. But you have no accountability for what you're doing in your leadership role with our government.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Passionate Podcast. I am Casey Kale, your host. Thank you so much for joining us today. Man, it's been a crazy couple of weeks. It's been a roller coaster of all kinds of things. Have kind of gone up and down, left, right, all over the place, no pun intended. But today I'm really excited for a guest that I haven't got to talk to yet. And I'm just so excited because I see a lot of things that she's doing and that she's trying to accomplish here for our community and for the state of California, a lot of different things. But we're just going to dive right in because I have so many fun things to kind of talk about during this pod. But Joanna Garcia Rose, thank you so much for joining me on the Passion Podcast.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you on. Thank you for joining us today.
I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Any chance I get to get my message out is what we got to do. Absolutely.
Well, let's tell the viewers a little bit about who you are, right? And your background, where you came from, because you wear a lot of hats.
Yes.
You wear a lot of hats from, contractor, from real estate to, let's start from how you started here in the Central Valley, Fresno. What was your journey?
So I was born and raised in Brentwood, California. It was a tiny town when I was growing up, but it was the fastest growing city in the state of California. Crazy. And so when I turned 19, I went to junior college. Had some surgeries from an accident in high school, so I had to kind of stay back. But as soon as stuff was cleared up, I ended up transferring to Fresno State.
Nice.
And moved to Chowchilla with my first husband.
Chowchilla.
Yep. He was one of those older than me Portuguese guys that didn't really like people. So he bought 40 acres, and it was 45 minutes from school. So
all the way out of everywhere.
Yeah. So that was what worked out good for us. And then we got into farming and water well drilling while we were living on the 40 acres, and that's how I changed my major.
Because I saw that you were doing well and well drilling. So what's funny is my wife, she's from Auberry, and just straight from big family from loggers and well drilling. Mike Waters, Mike Waters is the drilling, the water pump and drill, up in Auberry. So they've been doing that in the family for a super long time. So I thought that was really interesting that was also.
It's so fun. I watched, what was that show? Let There Be Blood or something.
Yeah.
The oil drilling.
Yeah, the oil drilling.
I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. That looks so fun. So
farming, water drilling, and then you're in Chowchilla.
I was in Chowchilla for a long time. So now I'm in Atwater. Okay. So we path through that, graduated, was doing well drilling and farming, got my broker's license and got into a little bit of real estate. I mostly just do family transactions now. Yeah. But it's good to have the knowledge and the skill for that. And then my first husband motivated a lot of things that I did. He was very encouraging for me to take over the world, as he would call it. So he was was he my pinky or the brain? I don't know. Anyways, we were one of those. So I went to law school, got a Juris Doctorate, and shortly after, it didn't kind of work out. So he wanted to kind of move on to a next phase of his life. So he's on wife number 3, but we're friends and things are good. So we separated, and then I had some health issues.
Kids?
I have one kid with my current husband.
Okay, gotcha.
So we didn't ever have any kids, but I went to law school. He wanted to sue everyone all the time. So the motivation was for me to be a lawyer and him to be the PI.
Got it.
I was young, so I don't like turmoil. I don't like fighting. I just want to be happy and do what makes sense. And so I didn't pursue being a lawyer. But I am grateful that I went to law school because the education and the information is invaluable.
I feel like just, knowing the little bit that I do know about you, I do disagree with you. I feel like you are a fighter. You have some fighting in there. I'm going to backtrack there for a minute because I don't think you'd be where you're at right now if you weren't a fighter.
I am a fighter.
Yeah.
And I was reading the Bible verse the other day. It was talking about how God gives us these circumstances for us to be overcomers.
Amen.
And I was like, do I have to be an overcomer of all these things? I've been an overcomer a lot.
Yeah.
So I am a fighter, but I only fight out of necessity.
Correct.
That's
where I was going with that.
Yes, I only fight out of necessity. It's not a passion or a love, but I definitely am not going to allow people to be bullied. I will not allow myself to be bullied. And I think that, we just need to be honest with ourselves. Yeah. And honesty has been what's really working. It doesn't matter if I'm knocking a Democrat door or a Republican door or a no party affiliation door.
I feel like we've lost so much of that.
It's so invaluable.
It is.
And nobody knows what it is, and it's gotten even more crazy because of the way things have evolved with technology.
I'm so happy to hear you say that because it really has gotten so bad, to the point to where you don't even know what you're reading anymore from the mainstream media is true.
It's hard.
And we just got to watch this amazing conversation between Trump and Elon. And the first thing the mainstream media do was try to dismantle it and discredit it when nothing they said were lies. But that was the whole inclination of the mainstream media.
It's just easy to say you're a liar.
Yeah, that seems to be their game plan. They say, oh, he's a liar, he's this, he's a that, he's a whatever. Whereas, if you actually look at the horse's mouth, you see things that come from Kamala Harris. She endorsed Biden for so long that had no mental acuity. And she said, oh, he's the best, he's the greatest. And then now, oh, yeah, he's not the best, so I'm going to run for president now. It's like, you don't know what the truth is anymore. So I'm glad to hear you say that because I think the truth is so important, and you can get the truth from the horse's mouth. Yes. And I think the legacy media has played such a
people are manipulated in this generation. I was talking to a younger Democrat, and he said something, and he said, "Well, that's your truth." Yeah. And I said, "Excuse me? What do you mean my truth?" And he said, "Well, that's your truth. My truth may be different." And I said, "No. If we go up a building and jump off, the truth is that we're going to hit the ground and explode. That's what's going to happen.
Yes.
Your truth that you think you can fly and my truth that I think I can't, we're still going to have the same outcome." And he goes, "Well, that's a fact." And I said, "Yes, facts and truth are synonymous. They should mean the same thing. Your truth is not actually truth. It's your opinion, your feelings. And you can feel any way you want to. But society now, especially with our younger generations, have been manipulated into believing that your feelings, your emotions, your, version of what's happening is a quote truth, your truth. And that is not...
It's not the truth.
That is not the truth. The truth is something that is infallible. You can't disprove it. The truth is that chair is black.
Yes. And that's that, and I think we've lost a big side of that in America, where we've lost that proud, prideful American that's like, hey, I want this American dream. I want this. I want the family, the White House, the picket fence, the dog, the job, whatever that entails, whatever your American dream is. We've lost so much sight of that. Why do you think that is in a world, where 2016 to 2020, we had, Trump shocked the world and gets in, and he's, a new modern era president, right? Does a lot of great things. 2020 happens. The whole world falls apart for the past 4 years. And Biden and Kamala have been there saying, oh, we're at the border, we're doing this, we're doing all these great things, which they haven't. And it's very clear as day that they haven't with, current inflation, the immigration bill, which we're going to get into all that too. That's because I want to hear your take on local stuff, because there's some craziness happening just in our Central Valley that needs to be taken care of too. But why do you think that there's been this big generational shift of how people get their news and how people get their information? Because when you do look at the mainstream media, it's almost like when I watch it, they say the same things over and over in every mainstream media thing. We can roll this.
It's all talking points. Yeah. And it's all controlled.
Yes.
And a lot of it is also, I think, because of what they're doing with education. Our children are not getting smarter. So
we're Fresno County's bottom 5, and we were given almost $6.1 billion for our educational systems.
But look where that money went and who's doing well. They're not the bottom 5.
Thank you.
Just the children are.
Thank you for saying that so much, because that is so important to me. Our kids are our future. It is so important.
People are seeing that.
I hope so.
People are seeing that. They really, in the lower communities, they're seeing that. Someone was just talking to me about can there be accountability for, grant money or funding? We just got this grant for this technology program for kids. And then, we're looking at standards and,
we built a $45 million aviation center looking to graduate 7 people a year.
That's insane. That's a complete waste of.
I don't understand. Like we could have done so much more. There's so many different things that we can incorporate. After school programs. There's so much more curriculum. Student athletes, integrity, leadership skills. There's so much more that we can develop. Like literally.
But if we empower our children to be the generation that like our generation was when we were raised, then you end up with people like us who are questioning authority and saying enough is enough. Our Constitution is our founder, our basis, our guide, and I will be constitutional and I will fight for America.
Yes.
And you don't want people doing that. So, they've said it for centuries. We're one generation away from being removed.
It's a true statement.
And that's a very true statement because of what they're doing.
What's happening.
We're like less than a generation away now if we don't make some serious changes.
We really are. And when you look at what's happened the last 4 years, and you have these same people that are promising what they could have done the previous 4 years, now they're saying, well, we can do this and this and this. Well, why haven't you done it? What I don't understand is how the media twists that so well. Like I just watched something, and we could pull this up too. CBS, right? Big mainstream media outlet. Like they literally contradict everything that they do. Trump came up with the no tax on tips, right, for the servers, right? He literally came up with this. CBS crucified him, right? Said, this is not a good policy. This is terrible. Well, Kamala copies the exact policy. You can't like once
because they pull it. So here's what happens. So like the incumbent I'm running against.
Yes, Soria, right?
Yes, I don't ever say her name because she doesn't need more name I do.
We'll get there too.
but the incumbent that I'm running against, I just saw a commercial for her the other night, and she was talking about affordability, people needing to go to the gas station and not be overcharged, and how groceries. She needs to work with working families. She's going to fight for working families.
Coming from a person that's 1.6 million in a war chest, by the way. You know what I mean?
She's got 2.5 now.
And
she's already in office, and she's been in office. So if you wanted to reduce the gas tax, how come when you voted on it, you didn't vote to reduce the gas tax? Oh, because you actually don't care about people.
You don't.
Or how much we're paying.
Correct.
You're putting money in your pocket, and you're going to say whatever you have to say to get elected.
To get the vote.
And the thing is, I'm never going to be that person.
Which I respect about you a lot.
I can't. The truth just falls out of my mouth. It's kind of a curse and kind of a blessing.
It's a great thing.
I just can't tell people what they want to hear.
The problem is that people get their feelings hurt, right? And that's why people don't like Trump. And then because they don't like him, the mainstream media puts this big spin, takes everything out of context, makes him think like he's this evil person. When actually, if you go and watch the Elon Trump interview, that's authentic, raw, no one's interrupting, there's no mainstream media, it's just them. You can see how authentic Trump actually is. And he doesn't bite his tongue either. But that shouldn't scare people away. That should encourage people to be proud. That's the kind of leader that I want. I don't want a leader that's confused between genders when we're at war. We're on the brink of World War III, and we're going to have someone that can't even, that's going to, the vice president, Tim Walz, I cannot believe that is her actual choice of candidate. The dude literally put tampons in boys' restrooms, passed a bill that allows, your kids to be taken away from you by the government if you don't agree with their sex change.
Look at the rioting in his home state. But that's what they want.
How is that possible? How could they choose a candidate like that and get away with it? I mean, straight up, like, truthfully, I don't even get it.
I mean, he's claimed because he checks the boxes. He was a war vet. He was all these things.
Oh, don't even get me started on all that either.
I've been seeing all this stuff with that, so it's tough. I got a negative poll the other day on myself. So the incumbent is spending her money. Where
do you see these polls? By the way, I see all these polls, and I'm going to pull some polls up here too because I've never been given a poll.
I can show you what it looks like on my phone.
I've never been given a poll.
I took screenshots of all the questions.
My point is I've never seen one, and they say that these are the polls of America. I'm like, well, I asked other conservatives, and they have no clue. They're not taking polls, so who's taking these polls?
I mean, so they look like this. So Joanna Garcia Rose, you're going to hear some things that does this cause doubts? So
does that actually construe doubt in people about you?
Part of the thing with doing polling is when you give a negative message, it politely puts that thought in their mind without you attacking them.
Exactly.
And then it also tells you what messages were received the best and what messages cast the most doubt, so you know what to slam mainstream media in.
Wow.
So I don't know which of these four, she says, I previously placed 5th out of 6 in in my race for Congress, and that they need someone with a track record of effectiveness in public service to represent our district during these challenging times. Okay, so as a mother of a 3-year-old who's worked my entire life, it doesn't matter what I had to do, we always worked. I mean, even when I was a kid, you painted fences. I had a paper route when I was 12. Yeah. And then, we painted fences, did whatever to make extra money for sports events and stuff like that, because my parents we didn't have grandparents helping us. We didn't have extra money.
Yeah.
So, I've always kind of been a hustler, if you will, as far as working. I like to work. I feel good when I work. And so you want someone who's like the incumbent, who worked when she was a kid with her parents, supposedly, went to college, and then became a field rep for a politician and a lawyer and a quote teacher, and has been in politics her entire adult career life. And that's all she's ever done, and that's all she's ever known. Yeah. So you want someone like that leading our country and guiding what regulations should focus on what employers and business owners have to accommodate, if you will. We have the least business-friendly state in the nation.
I was just going to say, as a small business owner myself, it's been excruciating.
It's a struggle, and it's ridiculous. So you want someone who's quote experienced that's going to give you confidence. For me, it doesn't. So I don't know who thinks that it does, but for me, I would rather have the person who started farming because they happened to buy 40 acres, who was on a wait list for a well, so got into well drilling because they needed a water system to water their plants.
To figure things out.
And then, got a divorce, had some cancer issues, got hit by a downturn in the market and lost the farms because of overregulation. Yeah. So I was a first generation farmer for about a decade, and then I wasn't anymore. Yeah. And then I just got a job and rebuilt myself and made my way back up that. Yeah. Would you rather have someone who's been on both sides of the paycheck, or would you rather have someone who's just been living off taxpayer money and spending it frivolously and having zero accountability for what they're doing, and has no real world experience of what it is that they do and how it affects people? I've worked in so many different agencies. I've got, besides my 10 years of private sector experience, I've spent a decade with the state of California. Yeah. And part of that was because I needed the student loan forgiveness program, which it bothers me when they want to make student loans be free for everyone, because it's like, why did I sacrifice and work in the
takes away the
public servant? Because you make less in the public sector. So why did I sacrifice this and deal with all the bureaucracy?
Completely.
So that stuff could be forgiven when someone else who didn't do that also gets it forgiven. It attacks school teachers. School teachers get the same program. Yeah. It's ridiculous to me how they do that. But, having her with her experience versus this experience, I'd rather take the latter. I'd rather take the survivor. Yeah. I'd rather take the person who encounters tough times and becomes tough because of it. Yeah. Not the person who takes the easy route, who smashes people down. I mean, I looked at her ads against Payson, and she could get called out for the stuff she called him out on, letting sex offenders out, letting this and that.
See, that's the other part thing that where politics, I feel like, has shifted. Like when I was, 14, 20 years ago, when I first started getting into, just understanding what politics were and who was in charge. We had
Republican leadership 20 years ago.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like, oh, you're this terrible person, you're this liar, you're this hypocrite, you're this double standard. Everything is a lie.
If you keep us divided, nations fall. Correct. Keeping us divided, nations fall.
And I feel like they're trying to keep us divided.
I had a guy, and I knocked on his door, and he said, are you voting for Trump or not? Are you voting for Trump or not? That's all he cared about. And I said, look, I'm focused on my race. I'm not worried about federal races, and he was very adamant about it. And I said, I cannot in good conscience vote for Kamala Harris, having seen what I've seen working in the state of California. 1,000,000%. Her policies across America will be detrimental to our nation. Yes. So as much as Trump might be offensive, he might hurt my feelings. Yeah. I don't feel like we have a choice, and financially, I have to look at my pocketbook. When I went to the grocery store at Walmart, it was $100, $150. Yeah. Now it's $300. Yeah. I can't afford that. I didn't get a raise that covers that much. I got a 3% raise, not a 9% inflation raise.
And people shouldn't be upset about that either. And that's the thing that drives me crazy is
they get upset. He was almost going to shut the door in my face, and I said, but
I'm not doing that to other people.
Talk about what's happening. I said, can you tell me why you want to support her, and he went off on some bad things about Trump. And I said, look, I don't disagree with all things. I
that's
think
the whole
that
point.
He's an angry tweeter.
Yeah.
I do. And I wish he had more grace. I pray every day God would give him grace.
I do the same thing.
And,
I agree.
You know, I do those things, but I have to factor it out. We have two terrible candidates on the top of the ballot right now. If you look at polarized, you know, views, Republicans think division. Kamala is terrible, and Democrats think Trump is terrible. And really, as a nation, we should be putting our best. We should have two great candidates fighting it out. That's like the American dream for me.
That's the old American dream.
Yeah, so it's
respectful, polite, you know, and
it's
stuff like that.
But I started talking about the prison stuff because I work for CDCR as a business manager. You know, we want to talk about who's got financial responsibility. The incumbent has run the state of California with her party and her leadership. What was happening this last year? Did we have a $73 billion deficit?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we did. Yep. Okay, but you're gonna call people out for their failures trying to make their American dream.
Yep.
But you have no accountability for what you're doing in your leadership role with our government. And so, you know, that's not a positive. No. And then I'm working with CDCR and dealing day in and day out with how I have 9 high security prisons, how we make them function with less money. And it's the 9 prisons I run is a $4 billion budget, $4 billion. And, you know, it's important. We have to keep people incarcerated. We have to have opportunities to have them be, you know, prevent their recidivism. We have to give people the opportunity to rehabilitate. But at what cost? Okay, it's $132,000 for an incarcerated person in the state of California. We're spending how much on our kids, and they're graduating having no skills and no ability to read or write or do things.
Completely.
We need to bring the same programs that we used to have when I was a kid in high schools. We now have them in prisons, and we don't have them in high schools. And 90% of incarcerated persons come from a trauma, a broken home, fatherless home, some sort of an issue.
Without a family.
And so if you want to stop criminals, you don't start giving them a slap on the wrist and telling them it's okay and getting them counseling. You fight the problem. You be proactive, not 100%. Reactive. You fight the problem where it's coming from. You have more resources in schools to help children coming from broken homes have a mentor, have an opportunity to do things. That's what you do. You give them 100%. A pathway to success.
Correct.
And then you have less criminals.
Let me ask you this too, now that we're on the prison topic really quick. You know, I'll be straight honest with you. So, you know, there's so much craziness that's happening all over our state, you know, let alone our own community. And you know, I don't know factual stuff about who's going into prison or who's coming out of prison. What I do know is we have a massive illegal immigration problem. I don't care what anyone says. Kamala was supposed to be our border czar or whatever. It doesn't really matter. No one's doing anything. We have an open policy. People are coming across in droves or using, I think 50 Cent posted something the other day about having like a $5 billion deficit in New York from the illegal immigration. Like, he's like, this is all taxpayer money going to immigration, going to, you know, they're getting homes and hotels. Not our kids. Not our kids. My question is, though, is how do we stop this? Because on a local level, right, I literally got into it across the street here in Clovis with an illegal immigrant. He was trying to snatch a purse from a woman, and I literally stopped him physically. And then I was talking with the officer after everything happened. He was like, yeah, there's an abundance of immigrants that don't speak English, that are all over Clovis. There's an abundance of purse snatchings, home invasions. This is happening in our own backyard now. In our own backyard, and they are dropping them off on our front step here in Fresno and Clovis.
Well, it's a catch and release. And
it's happening, and it's ramping, and it's running rampant, and people that aren't paying attention because it doesn't affect them.
Eventually, their purse is going to get taken.
My point is, how do we stop that? I mean, this is a local level. This is local. How do we stop that on just a local level, nonetheless, from the higher ups that aren't doing anything about it the past 4 years?
I mean, if we had good leadership in the state of California, it wouldn't matter what the federal government is doing, because if you look if you look at like Texas, they're taking their own resources
States
and they're securing their border. So, you know, we could be securing our border, but our leader doesn't want it. I mean, Kamala just stood up there, and I equate Kamala and Gavin as like,
they are. They've run us into the ground.
But, you know, Kamala just stood up there saying that illegal immigration should not be a crime. It should still be a crime, but what you should do is make legal immigration easier. We have apps for, I could get on an app and order a sandwich right now. I could get on an app and pay a speeding ticket right now. I could get on an app and do a lot of things.
Completely.
Why do we not have things where people can come in the border, scan their face, scan their documents, have an app for immigration so that we know who's here and what they're doing, and we can pick out the people who are dangerous and the people who are not, and the people who are here who are
so
not dangerous are legal. So if they're on a
Taliban wanted list, they can't be let into our country. I mean, right?
Yeah, I mean,
which what they let in, I think we'll have to pull up the stat, Jose. I'm not sure if you know off the top of your head, but it was over 10,000 wanted terrorists on the terrorist watch list that have been allowed into the United States of America.
I don't disbelieve
that literally has happened over the past 4 years, and still nothing is being done about it. Nothing.
There was a bill,
and they're still in office.
Bill Asaley tried to get a bill passed, and he wanted to make it so that you eliminated sanctuary status for people who were convicted of sex offenses, 290s, against minors. So not even all rapists, just the ones raping children.
Dude.
Just the ones raping kids. We want to take them and send them back. So, and that makes complete fiscal sense, because if you think about it, $132,000 for this person to sit in prison and have a tablet, get a high school education, read the law books,
get accommodations.
Food. I got kicked. We had to route it all the way up for like director level approval on some fruit, because there's a mandate from an assembly bill that incarcerated persons have to have a certain amount of fresh fruit and fresh vegetables, which I get it. We want people to be healthy, but you're a felon, you committed a crime. So how healthy do you get to be compared to a child that's hungry? So, it's hard for me to balance that when I see kids that don't get the same things. So
the same way.
If we had all kinds of extra money after we take care of our kids, then sure, we can have more programs for incarcerated 100%. People. And we might have more programs for incarcerated people because we'd have less incarcerated people if we were looking after our children. And so, you see that, but it's like, what is going on in the world where they get the fresh fruit, they get this, they get that, and, higher level management is like, we can't be buying this kind of fruit. And it's like, well, then you tell the assembly, because they passed a bill that says they need this amount of fresh fruit. Otherwise, it's going to cost taxpayers more money, because they're going to file a prison law office lawsuit, and they're going to get, cruel and unusual, whatever it is. They're going to get damages for not getting what they're required by law to get. So you really have to have someone in the legislature who's mindful not only of how small businesses operate, but also how prisons operate. It's very frustrating to see these things come down. AB 5. I was working at EDD as a tax auditor when AB 5 came down, and so there's goods and bads to it. I think employees deserve to have some security. I do believe in the opportunity for unemployment benefits to be that hand that picks you up. And, those came about during the Great Depression, and it was an important role. But at what point did we expand this role to a level it didn't need to be? And I have people who I audited who are, the person that paid them is like, no, they're an independent contractor. And the person who's doing the work is like, no, I'm an independent contractor. And they're just both sitting there saying, no, I'm an independent contractor. But I'm like, well, you don't have a business license. You didn't follow all the rules. So this person is now liable for your wages as payroll taxes.
And most people don't understand that. As a business owner, I'm not paying you $25 an hour. Right? I'm paying you. Then you got EDD, you got payroll taxes, you've got workers' comp, you've got insurances. It's not an hourly wage anymore. There's construction companies that actually evade payroll taxes to EDD and don't care. They get audited every year, and they pay the penalties to EDD because the workers' comp is so expensive that they don't care. They don't care. They're going to just keep paying that contractor under the table. That's crazy. And they're going to continue to pay the fines to EDD because they don't care. The workers' comp. And to me, that makes me think we have a bigger problem. We do. We need to look at sustainability and affordability of insurance. I had a friend who lives in Fresno, just got a picture sent. First, they sent her an aerial picture of her pool, which was empty because she was trying to fix it. And they said, if your pool's not filled up in this time, we're canceling your insurance. Safety hazard. Okay. So got the pool fixed and filled up. Then they sent her a screenshot of her driveway from tree roots and cracks and a PG&E repair that got messed up. And they said, if this isn't fixed by Monday, we're canceling your insurance, due to the safety hazard. Whatever. So they're looking, and it wasn't even that bad. It was just like a few cracks and a couple, but it's a trip hazard, whatever. But insurance agencies are looking for any excuse to get out of California. I think we need to say enough is enough. Why do I have to flee my home? I was born in this state. My parents were born in Iowa and Georgia, but I was born in California. And you see so many businesses leaving California because of the estate tax. I mean, there's so much craziness that I just don't understand how California is so broken and no one wants to do anything about it.
Because we're just writing our own blank check. That's why they're attacking Prop 13. And people don't even realize the ACA 1 and ACA 13 that the incumbent failed to vote on, because if she voted on it in favor of it, Republicans and conservatives in the Valley would tear, not just Republicans, conservatives in the Valley that care about their property taxes being elevated would have tore her apart. But if she voted against it, the party that gives her $2.5 million would have torn her apart. So she just abstained from voting. And we have a chance now where they can make it, where they can just raise our property taxes to do whatever they need to do. And that's what's happening all across the legislature. They're looking for opportunities like the gas tax. They gave us a reduction in gas tax, but then it was followed by an automatic increase every year for however long.
Really?
Why did they do that? Because they want a blank check. They don't want to be accountable for their spending. They don't want to be fiscally responsible.
Correct.
And so it's easier to just keep taxing people more and have a blank check.
That's wild.
It's going to be 20 years before that crashes and burns and catches up with them. And by then they'll be, fat and rich and they won't care.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I mean, I think that's a big part of the beast too, that people don't understand is funding, for that, for campaigns and donations and stuff like that. That is a huge downfall when you're walking into an incumbent that's got a war chest of now $2.4 million.
It's a lot, but I mean, she had 1.8 going into the primary. She spent $800,000. I had $49,000. Yeah. I spent $0 on voter contact.
Yeah.
And we won by 2 percentage points almost. Yeah. And so people don't let the money buy them off to some extent. They're starting to look around. Hey, that guy's getting robbed. Hey, my kid's not reading. You're starting to see the effects of these terrible...
Because sometimes I see people blindly, because for me, like Trump, anyone here, any conservative, I've always been in the middle. I've never been I'm this hardcore far-right Republican. I'm I have a lot of different unique values. I got my own perspective, right? But mine, they stem from my family, right? This is about my son with special needs who has autism, right? This is about my baby girl that's about to come into this world. This is about my wife. This is about my business. This is about my friends and my family. And God forbid that I have an opinion that's based on my family's protection and the livelihood of my son. And then for me to say, well, I believe that this is the best candidate, and then to be chastised for that, because, even when I'm very outspoken against Newsom because of what he's done to our state, it's I almost get mocked and subjected to some sort of hate, stigma.
Which I don't understand that, because if you look at him, I mean, he was picking up, cleaning up the, homelessness.
Yeah.
But he's only doing that now. After billions of dollars of failed policies.
Thank you.
And only now that it's an election cycle. I guarantee you, if you had an opportunity to put these people in office, they win, they annihilate us in the November election. Yeah. It's all these, bureaucratic long-term Democrats in control. Fast forward to December, those homeless camps are going to be back.
They'll be right back.
He's not going to care.
Nope.
And then during a next presidential, he'll care.
He'll care again. Same thing with that's what I'm seeing with all Democrats that are literally running on this mainstream legacy media, conglomerate lie. And it's let's ride on this piggyback because that's the hype right now. I mean, I've never seen anything so almost egregious. I mean, you see blatant lies that are not just hurting people that are going to be voting that way, but you're hurting people that aren't voting that way, that don't want to bring that type of stuff into California, into our communities, into our local chapters of education. Our kids are not getting the education that they need right now. We're literally bottom 5, and we've been given millions of dollars, if not billions. Yeah. I don't understand where that goes. And for me, even people that follow me, they ask, I'm I don't know where when you follow the money, I swear to you, one of these days I will actually go and I will follow the money, and I will do a special on that, because when I do it, I see things like this aviation center. I see things that aren't going to the kids that actually need the money, and we're flipped upside down. And these campuses that have gotten millions and millions of dollars are so low in educational polls or educational tests, and they can't process or develop in a way that they should already be developing. Whereas that's where we should put in the money, right? We're in development and making sure these kids have the tools and education that they need and are equipped with, rather than buying out these big centers and basically buying more assets and building more assets around these.
You're building a war chest for no apparent reason, and that's why the money coming for education is crucial.
Yes,
but it needs, in my opinion, it needs to be constitutional, and we need to focus on local controls, because who knows better I mean, if you were to drop my kid off at a stranger's house, they're not going to know nothing about his, what he likes to eat. They're not going to know when he needs to take a nap. They're not going to know what he's allergic to. They're not going to know he needs his treatments or his, get a flare up of all these things. He'll get pneumonia again. All these things. They're not going to know that because his mother and father know that. Close relatives know that. So why would government be any different than a family? Having all these bureaucrats up in Sacramento dictating what goes on across our state, and the same in Washington, it doesn't make sense because they're not part of our family. And that's why it's crucial, to elect people that are part of this community. I'm a working mom who's lived in Madera County since 2005, I think it was, and might have even been 4. And, now I live in Merced County, but I've been there for 20 years. I've been in this Central Valley. I've worked in this Central Valley. I've struggled through it. What they let happen to Madera Community Hospital blows me away. And the incumbent's just sitting there saying, well, I got money. I got a loan. It's like, are we at a strip club? Is it just all about the money? This hospital, you're not doing anything to change it. You're not changing management. You brought in a company that's potentially got, a reputation that doesn't. It's concerning. So I personally think that you're wasting taxpayer money because it's going to be bankrupt again in 5 years. You need to get to the root of why it was bankrupt to begin with. And this is a hospital that's, important to me. This hospital has saved my life and my son's life, on multiple levels. When I had my gallbladder surgery, it was at Madera Community. When I had my cancer surgery, it was at Madera Community. When I gave birth to my son, it was at Madera Community. And at the time I gave birth to my son, it was 2021. I loved my doctor who worked there. And I didn't trust anyone else with my life. And so at the time, the labor and delivery department was closed by the state of California because they didn't have equipment that was necessary. And it was before the bankruptcy, before the other problems happened. But that should have been a sign that there's going to be a problem to the state of California. When a labor and delivery department closes, you should start digging in and saying, okay, how can we help you? What can we do?
It's a big blow financially.
This community needs this. And so now they're bringing back the hospital, but it's not going to have a labor and delivery department. So what about all these moms? They're going to have to go to Fresno or Merced. And, I think about when I gave birth to my son, it took him a while, to crawl out. I was sleeping through it, but they gave me a sleeping pill, and when I woke up, he was ready to come. But I remember when I was delivering him, his heart rate just started dropping, and my son was out in 14 minutes or less. It was super fast, and so the doctor was like, "Okay, his heart rate is dropping." You could hear all the nurses doing stuff, and he looked at me and he said, "I'm going to cut you. And you're going to push like your son's life depends on it because it does."
Shoot, that just hurts just thinking about that.
And I had no fear because I trusted my doctor with my life, and I did what he said, and my son came out and he's fine, but the cord was around his neck twice.
Oh man.
And so, to me, that's a normal, healthy delivery, but bad things happen, and you have to have resources. If you were doing that at home you can have a home or an in-car delivery where you have complications where you they wouldn't even have the monitors to know his heart rate's dropping. We have to act fast. And so that's so dangerous. And they talk about all these women's rights. Is it not a woman's right to have her child be born safe? It's ridiculous to me.
It is. What would you say some of the incumbents' key talking points right now? Any of her accolades? Has she done anything, that she's touting or that she's, since she can take credit for it? What is she standing on right now?
What she's taking credit for is the money she's brought to the district. So when they had the flood in Planada, she got substantial amount of money to help that community to rebuild. But and that's a great thing to do. For sure. But there was a huge flood. Like they were evacuating people from Planada with a boat from the roofs of their house. Okay. So this was like a really crazy scenario. So I have to wonder, no matter who was in office, if that money would not have been available to help these people.
No, for sure.
So, that's one of her things that she takes credit for. And then the hospital, she secured them the loan from the government to get someone to buy it out and open it back up, which will be crucial for Madera Community. But I just don't think she went the step farther to ensure its success. You don't want to just hand out money.
No, that's what I was going with that. Is at the end of the day, there's so much more than just getting the hospital back, right? Like you said, there's other things that need to come into consideration, and I think that's where, people that don't have empathy, real true empathy for people, fall short. because they feel like they got a job done, but at the end of the day, the job might not be done, and they bank on that, right? The job is almost, in my opinion, never done until the
job is never done.
It's just not
until you're dead.
And I want that with a mentality like that. I don't want, like me, I'm not a quitter, man. Like I don't stop. I fight. I'm a spitfire. I'm a Scorpio. I'm a passionate dude. Passionate podcast, obviously, and I'm not going to let people walk on me, my family, or my loved ones, or my business. I'm just not going to do that. The job is never done, and I don't want someone that's going to be in a position that's going to just say, oh yeah, we did this, and that's complacent. Now, who cares about the moms and labor and delivery? Who cares about a special cancer center? I mean, there's so many different things that could have been done or facilitated, and I feel like the incumbent, when those things were done, it was done, and I want you to explain what you could do being in that position, as a new modern, conservative that comes in there that can change things up until, I
mean, I think the biggest thing that needs to happen is we need to be truthful and honest. And so when I go up there and I have to fight for the Valley and getting things done here, working to make things that make sense, having policies that are fiscally responsible. And I have enough experience within the state of California and being an auditor, I've audited over 100 businesses, billion dollar entities and little mom and pops. And so you see the struggles and when you're auditing someone, you're just not silent. You're chatting with them. You're learning about their business and their environment and what things impact them. And so we need to have those things in mind, and we need to be able to have people in office who realize they're not the smartest person in the room. I don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room. I don't ever think it matters. I want to know that I have enough intelligence to say, oh, this is a policy that affects incarcerated people. We should reach out to some people that lead institutions.
Completely.
This is a policy that affects, paroled people. We should reach out to parole agents and leaders in the law enforcement community and find out what's going on. This is a policy that affects small businesses. We should reach out to small businesses. And, AB 5 was such a mess that when they were doing the Uber claims, there's 10 months of the year where Uber drivers were employees, 10 months, because they were included. And then they owed enough money, they did enough lobbying that they were able to get special legislation passed December of, I think it was like December 11th or 18th of 2020. So AB 5 went into effect January 1st. And then in December, we had a new bill that said, Uber and those types of businesses were no longer subject anymore. And so it's like, there's probably a lot of businesses that should have been considered. There just should have been more consideration to more agencies, especially when they do things where what they did for us as an auditor is they took away our deference, because you had like a preponderance of factors that you could look at and you could weight them however you wanted to decide if you really thought this person was in business for themselves or a subject employee. And AB 5 codified it in a way where it's just a list of boxes. So there's no gray area discretion. They either check the boxes or they don't check the boxes. And, it's kind of like having AI driving stuff. Sometimes you need that real person 100%. To have discretion.
I agree. I don't want to talk to a robot. I don't want to talk to her. I want a real person.
It's those kinds of things. But in the legislature, I know that I'm going to be in the minority. I know that it's going to be hard, but I think I have enough experience that stands behind me in the private and public sector to be able to actually draw real scenarios to lay it out for other legislatures. What about in like this? And then they can see with their own eyes, oh, that makes sense or that doesn't make sense. And we can collaborate to come to something that makes sense for everyone. And then on top of that, I think that when I see stuff that's a problem, I kind of got a loud mouth. I lost the quiet game when I was a little kid with my brother.
We need
all the time.
And we need people to call out people that aren't telling the truth.
That's what I want to do. When we flip this seat, we won't break the supermajority unless we flip 6 seats. So I think we'll flip 3, hopefully. And we'll be a little bit closer to breaking the supermajority. But even without breaking the supermajority, those left standing, Esmeralda has a war chest. She thinks that her community owes her something and that this is something that she's earned and she can just get. And so when we flip this seat, I think it'll instill a little bit of fear in the supermajority to realize, look, voters can think for themselves.
Absolutely. And I think we are. I think people are waking up.
They are. And people will not be bought off. So maybe it doesn't matter how much money I have.
Yeah.
Maybe it matters if I actually come to the table and make reasonable decisions. So, I can call out someone in San Francisco. I could call out someone anywhere. I don't care. We need to call them out to who's there. And I mean, like the Bill of Saley bill is the same as the Shannon Grove bills where they made it a felony to traffic children. Which it should have already been that.
It should have been there. Right.
And that was Newsom. As soon as you called it out to the public and the public went, wait, what?
Yeah.
Then Newsom was like, oh yeah, this is my baby. I'm going to make a special hearing for this. We're going to push this through. And so we can do that with everything. There are so many, we might be divided, but we agree with each other probably 50 or 80% of the time, the left and the right.
Yeah.
So if the right,
I agree. I have a lot of agreements with a lot of things, a lot of beliefs and stuff. That's where I'm like, we don't have to
if the right
be so volatile to disagree.
50% that we know the left will agree on, if you can't get their leaders to agree because they're trying to keep the divide, we have to do like these podcasts. We have to do things,
correct. This is so important.
Whatever it is, we have to get it out there to say, no, this guy is not playing as a team player. He is not helping California or your community. You should elect another Democrat, one who wants to work with people. In some of those areas, we're not going to get Republicans in. That's fine. Democrats best represent some areas. But we need Democrats who are willing to collaborate with anyone and everyone for a better California.
Completely agree. And I think that's so important when, you've got now Democrats that call conservatives weird or do this or like, there's always negative talk. And it's like, dude, why? We are actually just normal, fun-loving, good-loving people that just want to have conversations to better our friends and our family and our businesses. And it feels like that people from the left, like far left, it's like, if you're not a Democrat, you're a POS liar. It's like, that's like the stigma. It's like, bro, that couldn't be further from the truth. I'm not like that at all. In fact, I will break my back for you. I will ride and die for you. I will do what it takes for you to achieve whatever we can achieve together. But in the left, they separate, they divide. They say, well, if you don't believe what I believe, then you shouldn't be up here.
There's a problem with that because we're doing it even now. We're saying left and right. Okay.
Correct.
When I talked to the gentleman who was on the left, who wanted to shut the door in my face over the Trump comment, I was able to reel him back in. Why? Because I spoke the truth.
Completely.
I was respectful and kind, and I took the time. And I said, sir, I am a mother that lives here in Atwater with a 3-year-old child, and I am worried about the state of the state, and I want to have a better community. And I'm seeing things at the prison systems that, could be better. I'm seeing lack of fiscal responsibility. Agencies have a limit on what they can save. So now we have this mentality that's a state mentality where every department in the state of California thinks if you don't use it, you lose it. We always have to keep our budget high. If we acted more like a business in the state of California and said, okay, you have extra money, you put it in a savings account. Maybe have a 5-year rolling check period where it goes back. But they're never going to give it back to taxpayers.
No.
And they're never going to give it back to the general fund.
Nope.
So they're going to just spend it on frivolous things.
Which they do.
So instead of asking for them to do 2 things we know they won't do, it goes against human nature, let them keep it. And then now when we have a downturn and someone's complaining about buying fresh fruit or toilet paper for incarcerated persons, we have a war chest because we saved it, because we didn't have to spend an extra $4 billion on stuff we didn't need.
That we didn't need.
And let them be fiscally responsible. Give micromanagement doesn't work. It does not work. Top down, it does not work. And so if we give people more responsibility, I think we'll see prosperity come from it.
I do too.
And if we give people more accountability, when someone screws up, they got to get fired.
Or just take accountability.
Or have a consequence for it. Have something.
I mean, I still can't believe we don't even know anything about the assassination attempt. I mean, there's no accountability in our government. Statewide, nationwide, in legislature, nowhere. There is no accountability, and I think that is by far what I think American people are finally really like, dude, this is bad.
Doesn't vote when it doesn't serve her to vote, right? Okay, so as a state worker, I get vacation and sick leave, and many other employees in private sector companies get the same. So why do we not have a policy like that? She's getting paid $120,000 of taxpayer money to do a job. The job is to vote yes or no. That is your job. Yet you support it or you don't. There's got to be a reason behind it. You're going to support or not. When you take a cop out and choose to not make a decision, that's an unexcusable use of taxpayer dollars. In my mind, I think even legislatures should be given like sick leave. So you can no vote 5 times because things happen and sometimes you can't make it there. Correct. Tires blow up, kids get sick. But after that, you should start paying a penalty.
Yeah, I agree.
You should lose some of your pay for that because you're not doing your job.
I agree.
If you didn't show up to work and you used all your sick leave, you'd take dock. You would get less money. So, we need to have accountability at all levels, across the board, everywhere.
Well, Joanna, I really appreciate your expertise, your knowledge, your education, your experience, honestly, and I'm really excited to see what you can do. And I hope that people can really see who you are, not just as a politician or whatever, but as a businesswoman, as a mom, that has compassion, that has empathy, Real quick, we always do at the end, we always a message for our viewers and watchers. And I want you to just kind of just say something, to the community of what separates you from the incumbent and why, we would be better off having you in there than the incumbent. What's going to separate you?
I mean, the thing I think that separates me the most is that I am a caring and kind person, and I really care about the people around me, and I don't find myself to be self-serving. I've looked at a lot of things that happen with the incumbent, and a lot of her stances and things, they just look like lip service, and they just look like a self-serving, statement. And so for me, I sincerely want to bring fiscal responsibility and accountability to the state of California. And I sincerely want to help people have a better opportunity to go after the California dream, the American dream that my, great-grandparents got when they came from Mexico to Iowa. They were able to pursue that American dream, and same when my dad's aunt and his grandma and everybody came over from Iowa to California. They were pursuing the California dream, and they were able to attain it. And it was because they weren't overregulated and overburdened and overtaxed. And so I really think we just need to be more honest about what we're doing and be more responsible about what we're doing and what we can or can't afford to do. And I think that really separates me from the incumbent. I also think if I didn't live in the district, I wouldn't be running in this district. So, her husband's house isn't in the district. It's 5 miles away. She rents a house in the district.
Gotcha.
But that's not illegal. But,
standard thing now.
It's a standard thing. And so, she claims to be Central Valley born, whereas I'm not. I was born in the East Bay. I was born in Concord. But I mean, she was born in the Southern Central. She wasn't born where we are here. And I just don't see her having the same struggles. She bought a place in Sacramento, I've heard. She toggles between the two, but I don't think going to the grocery store affects her in the same way that it affects me as a state employee and a working mom. I'm concerned when I go to the grocery store to see my bill double in 4 years. But I'm not going home to my 7,100 square foot house that my husband owns either. So, and I'm not in a situation where I'm trying to help people I know. I just want to help everybody because I think with prosperity, it ripples across. If we have safety and security, we will have prosperity. If we have opportunities, if we focus on fighting for water and education in the Central Valley, and we focus on making people accountable for their actions and crime, we will have prosperity back in the Central Valley. And that's what I want for my son. I don't want my son to grow up in an environment where he's seeing people getting beat down in the middle of the street.
My God,
I don't want him going to the grocery store, asking me why that person got to fill up their cart and just walk out, and why we have to buy it. I'm teaching him we have to buy it. So you want to have to buy it. So, we need to have that accountability back if we want to be prosperous, because it's just costing the lower income people like myself, honestly. And I make good money and I have a good job, but I wouldn't call myself rich by any means. And those things affect me. It's
affected us all.
Everybody wonders, can you fill up your car this month? So the last week of work, can I make it to payday? Like are we going to get there? And we need to focus on a savings, and we need to focus on being responsible, and we need to lead by example. We can't expect the state of California people to be doing anything different than the state of California government is doing. So, people are maxing out their credit cards right now just to pay for normal everyday expenses instead of figuring out how to budget right.
Credit card debt's going to an all-time high.
But how, and that's going to create a whole nother set of problems. Yeah. And so, I hope that more people will come on board. I feel very confident going into November that we have the right message. We have an honest message. And I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong or when there's another opportunity that could be a little different than what I was thinking. More heads are better than one. And that's a great thing. So I would say I'd hope that we're grassroots. I'm out fundraised by a lot. So everything that anyone can do, it's joannaforthevalley.com. Yep. So you go to the website, you can find my Facebook page, follow my Facebook page, share my Facebook page. I think that's how we really can make the change that we want to see, is by doing things ourselves and pushing to spread the word. You tell 10 people, hey, I met that Joanna and she seems like she's got a good head on her shoulders. Let's vote for her. Let's support her. When you get everyone you meet to tell 10 or 20 people to advocate. But that's the difference. We can't be quiet. No, we have to be willing to advocate. And it doesn't mean you have to go up and be a jerk. I wasn't a jerk to the guy that wanted to vote for Kamala.
I don't even know any conservatives that are jerks. That's the crazy thing. I don't even know any all my friends, we've been quiet for so long.
A lot of conservatives, though, want to preach to the choir or they don't. It's a hard.
We've been scared to be honest with you.
It's scared. It is scary, but we have to be brave. I got the.
That's why we're doing this.
I got to have the opportunity to listen to J.D. Vance when he came to Coalinga.
Love J.D. Vance, and I'm so excited for him.
He said something to everyone. He said, "Thank you for being courageous. Yeah. Thank you for contributing in a state where you will be persecuted and penalized for putting your name on this list as a donor. Yeah. And I want to encourage you to continue to be courageous." So that's really what I tell everyone. What I'm doing is not easy on me. It's not easy on my family. It's definitely a little bit scary. People tell you things and you're like, is that really gonna, okay. But I don't live in fear. I refuse to live in fear. We did not live in fear through COVID. I will not live in fear for anything in my life. And so I just ask everyone to look around and think, could we be happier? Could things be better? And if so, how can I be courageous today to make that difference? Because if we are all courageous, if we are all united, even if we're only united on 50% of our talking points, if we unite for that 50%, we can make it happen.
Yeah. And I agree, and I applaud you for your courage, and I do agree. I think courage is contagious, and that is why we do what we do on the Passionate Podcast now. And my message today is for anyone that's out there that and we're living in a world of so much unknown. Right? We don't know too much. We don't know what's real, what's not. We're being lied to by the mainstream media. We're being gaslighted. We're being manipulated. We're being told that this is going to happen. I encourage everyone out there to take a look at not just what's going on in the world, but at your own heart, at your own vision, at your own family, at what you truly believe in, right? Is what you're seeing out there, is that really the truth? Is that really something that you believe in? Is that something that you can get behind? When you actually watch some of the policies that people are trying to put into play and that our government's trying to put into play, do you really agree with those that are in there currently right now with the past 4 years? Do you agree with the past 2? Do you agree with the past 1? Right? Really take a look at what you're trying to evaluate. Look at your child, look at your daughter, look at your son, look at your significant other, look at your business, look at your paycheck, look at your grocery bills, look at your gas bill, right? Look at the people that are entering our community that are giving a free hand, and we're not even giving anything, right? We're still struggling. We're guessing, okay, are we going to be able to afford this grocery bill? I mean, it's getting outrageous, and there's a reason behind it, and I encourage everyone out there to really truly evaluate that reason in your heart. And that's at the end of the day, all I really care about is if you are leading with your heart and you're leading with your family and you're not leading by the mainstream media and what you think you're being told, follow the actions. Follow what's actually been put into place. Follow what's actually making your life better. And if your life is not better and has not been for the last year, for the last 2 years, for the last 4, then you really need to understand you need to step up and you have to use that courage that we just spoke about and stand tall and stand proud. Be proud to be an American. Be proud to wear an American flag. I mean, we should not stray away from any of that type of stuff. Be bold. Be proud to want the American dream and be proud to fight fight for the American dream. I think it's so important. And that's what we really believe in. And that's what I really encourage everyone to do, is just take a look at your heart, take a look at your family, and you can define what is real for your best interest, for your family, for what you're trying to do, and for how you're trying to provide. So, Joanna, thank you again so much for being on the Passionate Podcast. We're behind you. We're rooting for you. And we really hope that your name is up there at the end of this campaign. So if there's anything else we can do, you just let us know. But thank you so much. Joanna Garcia Rose,
thank you.
Passionate Podcast. We will see you guys soon. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.